Hello, I am Sue Vita, the Chief of the Music Division at the Library of Congress. And today I have the pleasure of talking with Monica Mancini and Greg Field, and we will see what they have to tell us. This year the library will include 2 concerts which are closely linked to your family. The 100th anniversary of George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, and the 100th anniversary of the birth of Henry Mancini, with a concert and films celebrating both items. In anticipation of these events, we've asked Monica and Greg to explain and explore with us the influences of Henry Mancini and George Gershwin. So I'm going to start with you, Monica.
Okay.
You were quite literally born into a musical family. Henry Mancini, the composer, was your father, and your mother was a dancer.
Singer.
Singer. Oh.
Well, she was a singer who danced.
Thank you.
Mostly, she would love to have called herself a dancer. She would love to hear that. But she was definitely a singer, but was called upon a lot to dance.
That's what I remember of
Yeah.
her. How did this influence your career choices?
Well, you know, it really wasn't my dad who influenced my career, it was my mom. And, you know, if you had heard my dad sing, you would realize why. He was a self-admitted bad singer. But, you know, I would watch her, you know, my parents went to work every day. And Dad would go off to Universal Studios and do his thing, and Mom would go to another studio or a couple of studios during the day and be on these different, they had dozens of variety shows back in the late 50s and early 60s. And so she was one of the sort of house singers on these shows. So she would go from CBS to NBC, and from the Judy Garland show to the Danny Kaye show to this show. And I would watch her, what she did for a living, and I thought, man, that is cool. And then I realized that I, you know, had a voice and I could sing, so I kind of followed her path. I really didn't, you know, all the kids took the perfunctory piano lessons and, you know, what all kids were supposed to do at that point in time. But, you know, Dad really wasn't my major influence at all.
I love hearing that. we have to celebrate the
Go,
women
Mom,
in our
go.
lives.
Yeah.
So this year, the Library of Congress will host a series of events honoring your father. And these are not the only ones that are being featured throughout the country. What is your purpose in doing all of these events?
Well, again, talking about my mother, you know, she lived quite a bit longer than my dad did. And when she was getting toward, you know, in her 90s and going in that direction, she wanted to be sure that the family would really take care of Dad's legacy. She wanted young kids to be playing his music in schools. She wanted his music to be available to high schools and middle schools and colleges, so that they could just go and tap into a resource such as the library and have all this music at their disposal. So she wanted the music out there, and she told us that for years, and we just knew what she wanted. So this is kind of an homage to my mom. It certainly has to do with my dad's legacy, but she just wanted the music heard. And the one thing that, you know, a lot of people know this music clearly, but what we're trying to do with this legacy is actually have the name mean something to these people that hear the music. So I want Henry Mancini to be what they think of if someone hears the Pink Panther. Oh, Henry Mancini wrote that. You know, or Moon River. Oh my God, Mancini, he writes it. You know, we just want to connect the two, so that people get who he is and appreciate the man, not just this music that somebody wrote.
So, Greg.
Sue.
Yeah, you know an awful lot about the legacy of George Gershwin, and this year is the 100th anniversary of Rhapsody in Blue. Henry Mancini also had iconic hits that, as Monica's just mentioned, when you hear the opening of Rhapsody in Blue, you immediately know what it is. When you hear the opening of the Pink Panther, you know immediately what it is. What do you think was the sauce that created the majesty and the I don't know, the juice of that.
I don't know. We should bottle it, whatever it is.
I wish we could bottle it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think unique to Gershwin and to Mancini is that there are many others, but especially with those two, they transcend time and decades and generations. In the case of Moon River, that song was recorded or written and recorded 64 years ago, but in the last 3 years, it's been recorded by Frank Ocean, Morrissey, Beyonce, and recently Eric Clapton. So there are those compositions that uniquely are embraced generation to generation, and they're not really seen as nostalgic. In the case of Rhapsody in Blue, I remember the first time I heard that as a kid, and I grew up on the West Coast outside of San Francisco, and that was quintessential Gotham. That was New York City. That was the meat of New York and everything that was happening there. And I still feel that way when I hear it. One of the challenges in a song like Rhapsody in Blue is that many of the recordings of it are 70, 60, 90 years old. So we associate the way we hear that music with the period and the way recordings came out of that period, right? So there is the inherent nostalgic element if it's not recorded again for today's ears.
To freshen it up.
Freshen it up, right. So I think when you go in and you take something like Rhapsody in Blue and you do refresh it, give it to a modern orchestra with a modern recording, it loses the nostalgic element to it and it becomes relevant now. Certainly that's true with Moon River as well.
So have you plans for this?
Oh yes.
Do tell.
Well, in 2024, we have tools that literally didn't exist as I'm a music producer. And I didn't have these tools 4 or 5 years ago. It's not AI. It's just software technology that allows me to take a recording of Rhapsody in Blue and produce it and mix it so that it sounds like it was recorded yesterday, which in some cases practically is or was, right? That, I think, will play a big role in continuing the interest in that music. That music is timeless. I mean, this sounds absurd, but I literally read in the newspaper this morning, it's like the 100th anniversary of the cheeseburger. Okay, right. I thought, okay,
Hooray.
well, I love cheeseburgers. So I don't pick up a cheeseburger and say, wow, this is something that came from 100 years ago. You just love it because it's so good. Well, that's kind of, sorry to
that's
compare
very
your mom's,
good.
your dad's music to a cheeseburger, but the point is that it's when unencumbered by the packaging, the music speaks for itself.
I look forward to hearing this. This is, it's something that will be special. What is something that people may or may not know about you that you would throw out there for us?
Geez.
I'll brag on her.
Oh, that's okay. You can do the same.
So at least I'll have something to work with. We met 3 years after Henry passed away, but it was a month tour of Japan of her father's orchestra. And I had heard that Monica Mancini is going to be the singer. This has got to be nepotism. Well,
What's wrong with that?
Yeah. Nepo baby, I think is the term now, right? And then I heard her sing for the first time. And I had come to find out that she was one of the queens of the background singers. She sang a duet with Michael Jackson on the History record. She was on all of these iconic records. But she was in the background. And this was the first time that she was stepping out to be in front, singing her dad's music. So I think a lot of people that found out about Monica found out about her as the performer post, her leaving the background world. But in the studio world, she was legendary.
Well, and because I have done for years since Dad passed away, these tribute concerts and all performing his music, there's a lot of responsibility in me singing the music of my father. And it's not just because I can and because I got a good break, but I really feel that I owe the music everything I can find. It's a challenge every time, and I've been doing it for so many years, but every time I take the stage and perform, let's just say for conversation, Moon River, I try to just find a little deeper place to go with it or something else to do with it. And I think I owe that to Johnny Mercer and Henry Mancini to do the best that I can do with it.
Two good guys.
Yeah.
Well, what about Greg?
What about him? He's just full of surprises, this man, because, I met him, he was as he says, my drummer in this orchestra in Japan, and then come to find out that he can do pretty much anything you ask him to do. And, he's, an 8-time Grammy winner and has won for Best Musical Director for the Library of Congress Gershwin's Prize, honoring Tony Bennett. And, and I wouldn't be terribly surprised if there was an Oscar in his future down the line, and he's writing a book, so he's an author. So, it's like people throw stuff at him and he just throws it right back.
I've seen his studio. I don't know how he ever comes out of it.
He doesn't, Sue.
What were you going to say?
It's a great story how I met her dad. And in 1981, I was Count Basie's drummer. Before I became a music producer, I toured for many years with different artists as their drummer. And that year at the Kennedy Center Honors, Basie, Cary Grant, Jerome Robbins, Rudolph Serkin, and Helen Hayes were all being honored. Incredible, right?
What a lineup.
And Reagan's up in the box, and it was incredible. I was 25 years old and just out of my mind, excited to be there. And for the Basie segment, Henry Mancini was narrating it. And because it turns out that Hank loved Basie. So for that show, they had Basie's band play one song in tribute to Basie, and it was a drum set feature. It was my solo feature. And we played the track, or played the performance, and her dad's standing in the wings. And we're being pulled off on this band cart. And I'm getting closer and closer to her dad, and he's just staring at me. And he walks up and he said, "Wow, kid, you got the greatest job in the world. You're Count Basie's drummer." And I thought, wow, Henry Mancini's talking to me. By the way, I'm going to marry your daughter in about 23 years or something, whatever it was. And he was just the most lovely guy. I met him one time after that here in LA at a musical event. But he was, I'll tell you something about what you may not know about Henry Mancini. And Henry Mancini was the most beloved collaborator, friend. The musicians in Los Angeles adored him, as did the musicians all around the world when he would do symphony concerts. And when Monica and I would, say, come to do the Pittsburgh Symphony or New York Philharmonic, whoever it might be, inevitably musicians would come up and they say, "We loved Henry so much." And I think that's something about his legacy that a lot of people don't know about, just what a sweet, decent guy he was.
Well, and you ask any of his peers what they remember most about Dad, and it's always what a decent human being he was. The music speaks for itself,
How can
but
you not
across
be
the
proud
board,
of something like that?
yeah.
Absolutely.
So the Library of Congress is just so honored to be the home of the papers of Henry Mancini. And it might be interesting to tell people how they happened to end up at the library. How did you select the Library of Congress as the ultimate home for Mancini's paper?
You said yes.
Oh, we begged.
It didn't take a lot of thought. There were only a couple of places that we were even considering, and when going to one, we said, nope. So, no names, but the library it's the friggin' Library of Congress. There is just this majesty, and when you go into the library, you feel like you're a church. So it was the perfect place to house all of our papers and scores, and I think Dad would be extremely pleased He loved, you know, he played Washington, D.C. This summer with the National Symphony every year, and with the fireworks and all that. And he used to have, Sir James Galway was usually his buddy up on stage. And he loved coming to Washington, D.C. He just loved it. And so I think he would be so happy to know where
Well,
all
we're-
of his stuff landed.